Hi everyone, this is my April reading wrap-up. Now, if you're new or returning here, my name is Smitty, and April is actually my birthday month, so an extra good month for me, and I happen to read 8 books, so let's get into them. The first book is All Systems Red by Moreau. It follows a self-aware droid who is programmed to be a security unit, but actually has hacked its own governor module so it mentally operates independently. It calls itself Murderbot and loves watching television, especially soap opera-esque shows. The blurb says it's set in a corporate-dominating spacefaring future, and in this novella in particular, Murderbot is sent to a distant planet alongside some scientists, and some interesting things start to happen. Now, I really enjoyed the main character, Murderbot. I think Wells did an amazing job balancing ennui and genuine care for others, and that's oftentimes an inherent struggle that Murderbot is faced with. I also listened to this as an audiobook, and I thought the Kevin Free version was excellent and really balanced that sense of ennui, but also care and trying to make sense of the world. There's also a dramatized version, which I had a little listen to, but it honestly wasn't for me at this time, so I'm really happy I listened to the Kevin Free version. I thought Kevin Free's narration really delivered on the humor that we see, especially as Murderbot is trying to understand certain human interactions, and I found myself laughing out loud at certain points too. There is a bit of a mystery surrounding Murderbot, and I think this story sets that up pretty well, and I think that's going to be explored throughout the whole series. These are short books, and they feel very sci-fi cozy to me. And when it comes to the plot, I think it's well-paced, but it doesn't grip me in a way where I feel like I need to binge the whole series in one sitting. So I really appreciate that I can pick them up, enjoy them, and then, read some other books. And then if I have a bit of a lull and I just want to read a shorter, cozy book, that I can fall back on this series. So overall, I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to read the next book in this series, and it was a 4.75-star read for me. Next up is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This book follows 2 rival journalists, Iris and Roman. Eventually, they end up corresponding via enchanted typewriters amidst a war amongst gods that's going on in their world. Of course, their lives become more intertwined and love ensues. Now, I saw this book all over booktube, and people were giving it rave reviews, and I was really intrigued, so the intrigue got me, so I decided to read it. Now, this story is set during a war, and I do appreciate the gravitas that war was giving. However, like many others, I felt the world building was a bit lacking. Now, I don't think you have to have extensive world building for a world to feel resonant or believable. It's just that this particular world in Rebecca Ross's novel didn't feel very I didn't feel situated in it, so it didn't really resonate with me. Now, I do appreciate how the 2 main protagonists were written. Their interactions didn't feel contrived, and their decisions felt very believable, especially given the circumstances they were in. I read online that the author took inspiration from World War I, and I can definitely see that coming through in this book. I also appreciated the friendships that Iris in particular developed throughout this book. It was really nice to see how she interacted and got close to other characters. Overall, I enjoyed the book, and it was a 4-star read for me. Next up is Ruthless Vows, also by Rebecca Ross, and this is the sequel to Divine Rivals. Now, I don't want to give away too much about the premise of the book, but it is the sequel to Divine Rivals, but it feels like a completely different book to me. While the first one was more romance-leaning, this one felt more about the war and the gods, especially Dakra. As I was reading this book, and I had hints of this feeling in the first book as well, I didn't really find the actions and behaviors of the gods to be very convincing, so it wasn't very resonant, and maybe that's the point, but it felt like something was missing there for me. And as I continued to read the second book, I had a better understanding of why I wasn't clicking with as many parts of the first book, even though I enjoyed reading it. For starters, I think I would have connected more with Roman and Iris if I were a bit younger, and that's no fault of the author. It's just that they are 18 and 19 and I am not, but I think she wrote them really well. However, when it came to some of the older characters, so those in my age range, I didn't feel like they were given as much depth. For example, there are times in this book when the author switches to the 3rd-person perspective, but I still feel like certain characters, like Roman's parents and the gods, are still being viewed in Roman and Iris's lens, so it just lacked a bit of depth to me in understanding these characters' motivations and background. There also is just a lot going on in this book, so that romantic, atmospheric, magical setting that I think so many people fell in love with was just not coming through in this novel. Now, I don't think the second book in a duology needs to exactly mirror the first book. I think it can be also quite powerful when the author chooses to make different stylistic decisions, but it's just in this case it didn't really work for me. So overall, I think I enjoyed the first book more, and this book was a 3.75 star read for me. Next up is Eyeliner, A Cultural History by Zara Hankir. This is a nonfiction read that investigates the cultural history of eyeliner. We learn about how eyeliner was used and made across time periods and across the world. We also get an intimate look at the cultural significance that eyeliner had in various communities throughout the world. Now, this book was on my TBR for this year and was actually picked as my March TBR read by my community, and I just needed a little extra time reading it, so thank you for your patience. I actually have a physical copy of this book, and that's how I initially started reading it, but then I switched over to the audiobook format, and that worked really well for me. The narrator, Sonila Nankani, did an excellent job narrating this book. I felt like the author gave us facts while also giving us her interpretation as well as her own personal experiences with eyeliner. Now, as a person whose family is from Kerala, India, it was so cool to see my ancestral culture represented in this book. I remember reading the first couple pages and seeing the Malayalam word for eyeliner, and I was just like, I think I freaked out loud because it's something that I've never seen. I think people who have ancestry or connections to the places and peoples mentioned in this book, especially if you're a beauty lover, will feel very seen by this book. Now, this is truly a cultural history from past to present, but it's important to note that this is not a comprehensive history. I think this author beautifully highlights diverse stories that usually aren't shared, but this is not completely comprehensive. So if you're going in thinking that you're going to learn everything there is to know about eyeliner, that's not the case, but you will learn about cultures and people and places that you might not have heard about before. Also, as an online archaeology educator, I really appreciated the author's storytelling style, and I found myself really analyzing how she was presenting certain things, and I learned a lot just from how she wrote this book in itself. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a really important book. I hope to see more by this author, and it was a 4.5 star read for me. Next up is The Album of Dr. Moreau by Daryl Gregory. This novel is set in the boy band era of the early 2000s. The producer of the world's hottest genetically engineered human-animal hybrid boy band has been murdered, and we are trying to figure out what happened. This is a mashup of slight sci-fi, murder mystery, and humor. Now, I found this to be such a fun, short book, and if you liked or just were aware of boy bands from the early 2000s, I think you would especially appreciate this book. Now, there is a murder mystery, and I do appreciate that we get a resolution, but I just really enjoyed the dialogue. Some of the dialogue had me laughing out loud. I also really enjoyed getting to know the characters, and this is a short book, but I think Gregory made really smart decisions on which characters he chose to develop and to what extent. This is my second book that's a reimagining of The Island of Dr. Moreau, and it's got me really itching to maybe read the original version. I listened to this as an audiobook, and the narration by Almarie Guerra and Louise Moreno was excellent. They really brought these characters to life and made it such an enjoyable listen. So overall, this was a 4.75 star listen for me. Next up is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata and translated by Ginny Tapley Tekamori. This novel follows Keiko, who's never really fit in with her family or at school or just in any other social settings. It's clear that she thinks about things differently and has a hard time conforming to societal expectations. However, when she's 18, she gets a job at a national convenience store chain, and her life is forever changed because there are clear rules and she feels that everything just makes sense. Fast forward to the present in the novel where she's 36, and while she's really happy, those societal expectations surrounding marriage and a prestigious job are seeping in, and we follow her as she wrestles with decisions on this front, or on these fronts. This has been on my TBR for a while, and I really enjoyed the main protagonist. I listened to this as an audiobook, and the narrator Nancy Wu did an excellent job. As I listened to this book, I really enjoyed feeling that I was inside Keiko's head, and I felt that I could empathize with her so much. I honestly felt both her joy and confusion so clearly, and I think that's a testament to the beautiful synchrony of the narration and the writing. Now, I think the author also did an excellent job of writing another character, and I don't want to give too much away, but she wrote this character in such a way that I was so annoyed by them, and I know it was intentional, so I just have to give the author kudos for writing such an intentionally annoying character. This book clearly subverts many ideas that we wrestle with, including relationships, jobs, prestige, life's purpose, and I think it's done in such a witty and artful way, and I found it to be quite memorable. Overall, this was a 4.75 listen for me. Following the theme of corporate worlds is Defekt by Nino Cipri. This is the second book in the Fina series, and the Fina series is set in an IKEA-esque like world that has a multiverse. This book follows Derek, who is the most loyal employee at Littenworld, which is this IKEA-esque like store in this series. After he takes his first sick day ever, he's called into his manager's office where his loyalty is questioned, and then he ends up getting on this special night shift where you have to hunt down defective products with 4 other people. I listened to the audiobook, which was narrated by Ramon Diocampo, and it was excellent. I enjoyed this story much more than the first book in this series, and I think that has to do with the characters and the setting. When it comes to characters, I feel like I got to understand our main character really well as learning enough about the other characters in the book. While this is a multiverse and anything can happen, I felt the world building was a bit more contained. The focus felt less on the world and more on the characters trying to make sense of the world or worlds they were living in. Also, the themes around corporate work lifestyles, consumption, and value felt less overt in this novel, and it honestly was way more effective for me personally. Overall, this was a 4.75 listen for me. Last up is Lady Susan by Jane Austen. This is a short epistolary novel that follows Lady Susan, who's recently widowed and is trying to secure a good match for herself and her daughter. Now, I started this as an ebook, and given the epistolary form and the range of characters, I found that it was easier for me to follow what was going on when I switched to an audiobook. Now, there's multiple audiobook versions, and I listened to the one by Rosalind Landor, and I thought she did an excellent job. Now, I found the main character of Lady Susan to be pretty hilarious, and I appreciated that she always had a comeback for whatever someone might say about her, especially if it was in the negative. The tone is definitely witty and satirical, and I enjoyed listening to it. I also really appreciated going down a rabbit hole to learn about the backstory of this book. Apparently, it's one of Jane Austen's earliest finished works, but it was never published in her lifetime. There's also a movie starring Kate Beckinsale as Lady Susan, and I found that take to be pretty funny as well. Overall, it was a 4.5-star read for me. So yeah, that's what I read in April. I found it to be a really good reading month and a good birthday month. And if you are curious about what I read last month, check out this video here. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.